Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ajay Patel podcast. I really do hope this fucking wire is not in front of the camera lens.
I know, man.
Today, I have a very special guest. This brother of mine is actually the reason that I got pushed over the hill to start my own podcast. It was almost like when you're in spin class and you see someone's doing a little bit better than you and you're like, oh shit, you know, like I need to, like that's the only way me personally now knowing who I am gets me off the cliff. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Sandeep.
Thank you, man. That was like a Club Shay Shay level intro. I really appreciate it. I think the spin class analogy, I would like maybe that old guy in his 40s who's like sweating like crazy, but he's just going the whole class. That's what it probably looked more like to you.
It wasn't even like yeah, firstly, no disrespect, obviously. But it was more so just like, bro, you know, like this guy's talking about it and he's doing it. I like to talk about it. You know, like I have a mean talk game. It's just a matter of like action, you know, and it's just like, also, this may be echoing a little bit. I can feel it now, but it's all good. So, firstly, how are you?
Doing well, man. And, you know, I just want to kind of put a button on that podcasting, like inspiring him to podcast. We would talk about it. Like Ajay would come by once in a while. And we'd always talk about like, oh, I want to do this, like a Bollywood movie rewatch podcast. I want to do this type of podcast. And then I jumped out the gate and just started doing it. And then when you jumped out the gate and started doing it, I was like, dang, there goes my corner, right? Like I'm the aging superstar, right? I'm MJ on the Wizards.
The funniest thing was when you were like, hey, bro, like no one's doing this. No one in the South Asian community is doing this. I was like, bro, I'm pretty sure it's pretty saturated already. But nonetheless, so firstly, thank you for that.
Sure, man.
Second, I wanted to ask, you just mentioned like when you started, your initial idea when you voiced it to me was that rewatchables idea. Can you tell the listeners what that idea was? Because I still think that idea has a runway somewhere in the future.
Sure. I mean, this is my intellectual property, so I will sue you if you take this idea. It's been done a few times. I noticed COVID era, there was a couple that popped up and they had like 10 episodes and they're all dated like 2020 and they lasted just that quick, like 8 episodes or something. But, you know, rewatch an Indian movie and just like, I don't know if you've ever watched or listened to the rewatchables on the Ringer Network, but just go through these categories on every movie. And like 90s Bollywood is so wild.
Yes.
Like if you watch them today, the movies that we grew up with, that my parents were like, you can't watch this live action Hollywood movie, but go and watch all these Indian movies, like the gender politics, the violence, the misogyny. I'm just like, it's so ripe for conversation in 2024, man.
Just the other day I was in the kitchen with my mom and I was like, was DDLJ is DDLJ the greatest movie of all time, Bollywood wise, right? Is it the greatest of all time? And she said, well, it sold the most tickets. And I was like, well, is that the answer or not? So thinking about that, right? Like that era of Bollywood, what would that be one of the movies that you kind of put into that like rewatchables category?
100%. So like, that's what I like about the Ringer rewatchables that I talked about. I listened to it a lot in the past until I ran out of movies that I'd seen and knew about. They had these recurring categories and like specific stars they're always calling out. And Indian movies, it's the same stars over, same side characters over and over. So you can really talk about a lot of the trends. But the biggest one is like when you get to like episode 25, episode 50, episode 75, you hit a big one, like DDLJ, for instance. But the movie that really sparked my interest, I don't know if you've seen a movie called Karan Arjun. It's a OG classic. It's like 31 years old now. Okay. It's Shah Rukh Khan and Salman Khan. And like,
no way.
Yeah, they're brothers.
When were they in a movie together?
And then they die and they're reincarnated in the same movie. It's like an action movie. Dude, that is the wildest movie you'll ever watch. And I watched it as a kid. My mom let me watch it as a 6-year-old. And watching it today, I was like, I cannot believe this.
Especially with some of like, obviously a lot of the violence was very badly staged. But it was pretty graphic, right? Like someone getting running through glass or someone getting hit by something. And it was just all gory. And it was like, I used to watch this. Or growing up, like a classic example is Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, right? Like, hey, that side piece will always be waiting for me. That's the summary of the movie. And I was shown that, right? Over and over again. I love that movie. Oh my God, we had that on VHS tape. going back and forth. We watched that over and over again. And I would love to kind of pursue that idea. You know how, obviously, you know, Bill Simmons, and he has a kind of like an umbrella of podcasts, right? Sure. He has his Ringer network, and that has 5 different types of podcasts in there, having the rewatchables being one of them. So I'm probably going to eventually try to steal that idea where it's like, hey, here's a 90s Bollywood movie. Let's review it through these 10 agenda items. Or sorry, not agenda. What would it be, like a rubric? Mm-hmm. And so what do we think, what not? I would not be able to even touch a movie that's come out past 2005.
Yeah. Well, and that's the beauty of what I was thinking about. And I think we're just like agreeing to do this together one day because otherwise I'll have to sue Ajay. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to add to the people suing Ajay, by the way. That's a low blow. I'm sorry. I've been listening to the podcast. That's exactly the idea I have. But, you know, us, it's about like a 7-8 year difference between us, right? Yeah. So I think your perspective, my perspective would be very interesting. And I also have this friend. Like, this guy is an encyclopedia of behind the scenes Bollywood gossip from that era on. I truly do not know how he knows this much stuff, like what rag he reads, but him spouting off that background content plus our lenses on the movies themselves, like, dude, this is ripe for the picking.
I don't know how to do that part of it. You know, where it's like, oh, Udit Narayan sang the song. And it's like, oh, I have no idea. All I know is the main, like, yo, Shah Rukh Khan killed that shit. Right. Oh, Salman Khan killed that shit. Oh, Rani Mukherjee murdered that. Like, there's certain scenes that, and I think I get a lot of this from my sister because she was much more versed in all of this, where it's like, look at this moment right here. This is when Aishwarya Rai kind of just blew up. When people knew her as like, oh shit, that's the new blood that's here and for here to stay. But closing this topic out, where it's just like, we kind of shaded at how you had a podcast earlier, and I had my notes here, journeyman, like how you first kind of started it, having one kid. And then eventually, I watched your progression. You're talking about the Cowboys one week. You're talking, like you were just going, right? You were going and you were, it was still inspiring to see, because it's like, oh shit, okay, like this guy's still he's moving at a certain clip. He's dropping 2 a week, 3 a week sometimes. How is he even doing this? And then it comes to a halt, right? I'm going to let you elaborate on this, but from my understanding, it was more so to focus on the professional aspect. So as the journeyman, can you talk about your journey a little bit?
Yeah, man. I mean, do you want to hear my life story or just the podcast story?
Mainly that thread.
All right, so August 25th. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, the podcast thing, it was almost exactly a year ago that I jumped out the gate and I was like, man, I'm going to podcast. I'm going to tell the world about all the stuff I've learned as a then 35-year-old Indian American, right? I was like, I got stuff for the youth. I got stuff for the fellow dads. My daughter's 2. Life is more predictable now. We got a son on the way. I got some perspectives to give the world, right? And so that's what like the first 8 or so episodes were. It was genuine, like topical perspectives on very specific things. Let's just say the algorithm when you're out there doing this. Yeah. And I had been off social media for 5 years, by the way. Okay. So I wasn't as affected by like needing to, get the likes and
some dopamine hits.
The hit were coming from different places, right? And so
that's really cool though, that your dopamine was coming from making it. It wasn't coming from like, oh, I'm getting likes and stuff.
At first.
Okay, here we go.
First. Okay. But I'm an addictive personality, self-admitted, right? One of the episodes is about drinking, right? And so Ajay's seen some other versions of this, but the episode where things really took a turn for the darker side of, I think, the Sandeep Thoughtz podcast, RIP, was the Hassan Minhaj episode. We talked about it when we did an episode together.
Interesting.
Because I stopped being about the message I actually wanted to share and started being about hitting the algorithm. Ooh. And that was my most viewed episode, like 300 plus views on YouTube, right? Yeah. And then that episode was
you could have said any number. You could have said 1 million, anything. Hey, they're like, that's it, 300.
I'm honest.
I would love to hit 300. Sorry, keep going.
No, I mean, 34 subscribers, 94 followers on Instagram. Yeah. Those are the numbers I did, guys.
Metrics are metrics.
Data's data, right? That episode, and then the comments started to fill up with some let's say, very hot takes from very specific parts of the world, because we all know what took place in fall and is continuing to occur in that part of the world to this day.
Yeah.
I was all of a sudden a colonizer. I was all these things I never even really knew how to translate into my day-to-day life. And then I started saying, okay, let me lean in and let me stop just talking about this kind of spiritual, theoretical, how do you live your life, like Jay Shitty stuff. Mm-hmm. And then
Jay Shitty?
That was intentional. I started doing like just topical. So I started kind of doing
Time out, Jay Shetty. If you're listening to this, brother, I mean no harm by this. I would love to have you on the podcast.
prove the monkhood, bro. Like, we see you in that one picture, but where's the lifestyle?
So sorry, Jay Shetty was doing what?
You're talking to Kim Kardashian, bro. Like,
how did he do it? Okay, sorry, keep going. Let's keep on track here.
That's gonna be my first comeback episode. Is Jay Shetty? You know, whatever.
It's a mean title.
Yeah.
No, actually, that's interesting that you said that. Where this is a very clickbaity culture, you know, like it's almost like do it till you make it and then go back to your art. And you see that with a lot of these YouTubers where there's or TikTokers where they're doing pranks, you know, and it's just like, you know, that gets clicks, you know, irritating someone in public, you know, you're going to get a rise out of them, and then you're going to get all these clicks. And then eventually when you have all this fame and fortune, like look at Logan Paul. Yes. Perfect example, right? The dude was an absolute troll. I get it. He was younger. Absolute troll. But now would he be able to do what he's doing today with that, without that foundation that he built while he was young? The Jay Shetty stuff, where I had a clip of like, he, you know, did he lie on his resume or whatever? One of those clips got a ton of views because that's what it is, right? It's keyword buzzing. Like, oh, that's there. I want to hear that. I want to hear that. So going back to your story where it's like, when did you started falling in love with the algorithm?
I started falling in love with the algorithm, and the algorithm will never fall in love with you, right? Because the algorithm is like any other drug. There's that initial quick hit. Yeah. You enjoy it, and you always try to go back and get that same rush again, and it never happens.
Keep going.
It'll actually game against you to keep you inserting, entering, trying, uploading, right? And then I got into the shorts game where it's like TikTok shorts. Yeah. And that's where the craziness started coming, because I would only snip fiery topics, right? I'd only snip stuff where I was talking about racism, political stuff. Out of like a whole 50-minute episode, I would grab the stuff that I knew would rile people up. And then, you know, let's just say my kid was born in October.
Yeah.
Him and my kid share a birthday, by the way. I find that very special.
Very interesting fact. Yeah.
You know, this another interesting fact. This is the only year you guys will share a special birthday. So his first and your 30th, it'll be on the same. That's it, because you're 29 years apart. I have a lot of time to think. Yeah. Won't
we have every fifth increment? Oh, he'll be 6 when I turn 35?
Exactly. Interesting, right?
Yeah, that's strange.
That's what the people are here for.
And I was a math major.
But anyways,
it took me a while to get to that. Keep going, please.
I'm not trying to blame my kid, but when you have a second one and you're sleep deprived and you're on paternity leave and you're like, I guess, rediscovering some bad habits, and your only productivity outlet is podcasting, things just went off the rail, guys. I was doing Home Alone rewatchables for 2 hours. This dude checked on me. He texted me. He's like, dude, are you all right? Like,
things were getting bleak. You know, I was just like, yo, my man is really sad in front of a computer screen.
That's what I was like. All right, you need to just dress yourself down. The new year's coming. Just reevaluate. Uh-huh. And then we had a family event in December. So like a lot of my wife's family came through, which is like the majority of my viewership to date. The people who talk to me about my podcast is my in-law extended universe. And a lot of them came on the podcast. They were very generous to do that. So those were kind of the more normal, like, okay, this guy is still a part of society episodes. But then I got back to work and I was just like, dude, kids and work and trying to progress the career. I was just like, let's wipe this clean. You haven't seen a cent off of this. In fact, you've probably only lost a lot of dollars.
Yeah, right. But it's like a hobby, right? Like, it's a hobby, bro. I started rock climbing, you know, and you start spending money on it. And it's like, obviously it's not making you any money. Same thing with me, right? I'm not making any money off of this. Is the goal to? I mean, yeah, you know, I really hope so. But maybe not money wasted, right? Because like literally, look, we're using your equipment right now. Like, you want to give a shout out to Shure?
Shout out to Shure. They really need our help.
That's what I'm saying. So when did you ever have to explain any of this to work? You know, like, did they ever see any of the stuff?
So this is where things get very interesting. No, but I started, TikTok tells you who sees your stuff.
Ooh, okay.
And so I think TikTok, if you don't get your settings right, it pushes your feed to your phone contacts. And I have a ton of coworkers on my phone. But my stuff wasn't crazy. I wasn't like railing off like, Donnie T 2024 takes or anything. Yeah. But I saw the eyeballs start to come. And then I was after a career move this year too, right? And I learned that we
internal or external?
Internal.
Okay.
I looked at external, but internal ended up working better. Build upon what you've built upon.
Because he loves Microsoft. He loves it where he works.
I do. And that's a part of it, bro. Because like I've seen firsthand what this new era of AI technology can do. I know everyone's talking about it, whatever, but the ability to contextualize your entire digital footprint and provide like a scorecard, essentially, I was like, what's mine going to look like in about a year if I keep at this? Yeah. There's some mouths to feed that are sleeping upstairs right now. Let's just say at my age, the window gets a lot narrower in terms of the things you can put yourself out there doing.
And your risk becomes higher.
Much higher. Everything is high risk. Yeah. Everything.
As someone that is currently searching for a job, it becomes a very strange thing to me where this didn't happen as much as at my second company, but the first company I worked for, they would, like do a Google search just for fun. And they were like, oh, like you did this college dance thing. But luckily they never saw videos. So now if you would search me, you would more than likely see clips or something like that. And that is what kind of makes me nervous sometimes, where it's like, shit, like this is a different identity. I know it's an identity that I want to keep and it is me, but it's like I'm also performing to an extent. So I don't want to be judged. I still need to keep the lights on,
right? But
I still want to do this. So like it's this weird divide. So lately I've been trying to, wind it back a little bit on the Donnie T takes, and it's just like, hey, maybe we shouldn't storm the Capitol. So it's stuff like that where I'm trying to wind it back, but I completely understand where it's like, yo, career first. I got to feed these kids. I got to feed my wife. I got to feed myself. And I've climbed too high up this hill to fall down because of some nonsense that I wanted to do.
Right. And that's like, I think it's a real function. You're a millennial, right? Technically, or are you Gen Z?
Yeah, 94, millennial.
Okay, so you hit the cutoff. I think it's a function of our generation. Is like we're very much about sharing our experience and our inner mentality, our mental health, and all that. And so that's celebrated in certain workplaces, right? Mm-hmm. One's in my past, not so much, but the one I'm in, we're all about that. But you still have to kind of walk the corporate line, right? And so this is something I was trying to do. This podcast kind of veiled, like, the professional me and the podcast me, they're never going to intersect. That's impossible in this technology age, man.
Yeah.
And then some people at work gave me the tip of being like, hey, why don't you just merge the two worlds and you can kind of do like the professional podcaster thing. But then you have to be like a LinkedIn podcaster. And that's a whole different game, bro.
But it's also not.
It can be both.
Like, yeah, you could do it. Because I literally auditioned yesterday for some live podcasting that you would be talking about AI technology.
Okay.
And I was like, how strange, like my acting life could try to become my podcasting life that would also make me money. Like, whoa. Like, and so I do think like these worlds are colliding a bit. I wouldn't shut it down. I understand you don't want to be this guy on LinkedIn being like, hey, today we talked about how you can build a dashboard in Power BI. It's like, all right, bro. Like, I don't even
exactly. Or are you feeling down today? Just go stand out in the sun.
That's what I'm saying.
And then come smash on your keyboard for an hour.
Andrew Huberman. Okay, so you said something about you said something about our generation that has this need to like put some type of art out there, right? Talk about their experience, talk about other stuff. Just be in front of a camera, have some eyes on us. Word. So that is actually my main topic that I wanted to bring up with you. And we will do that after a short break.
All right.
Welcome back. So what I was talking about was, the journeyman, the wanting to be an artist aspect, a lot of things that are tied to our generation, right? You wouldn't see this a lot in our parents. And I tie that a lot to this modern age, and your podcast talked a lot about the diaspora, like what has changed in our age and what has, what was it influenced by? Why do we act a certain way? Why do we spend a certain way? So with that being, in this world of wanting to create art, wanting to put art out there, wanting the art to be appreciated, why do you think that's happened more so with our generation versus our parents or, the generation above them? Maybe if you want to talk about generation below, and if this is just a South Asian thing or, Asian thing in general.
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I do just one counter question, because you clearly have a performance history, right, from your young age to now. Not that you're old or anything. Was one of your parents ever that extrovert that was like grabbing the mic at events?
No.
Okay.
Interesting. They weren't. I think, so I'll give you a quick little thing on that is my mom is a big host. My mom will go out of her way to, like, you good? She'll make sure she's talking to everyone. And I do find myself like that. And then my dad is someone that is the jokester, like he'll try to keep you laughing and entertain. And I think that's where that part of him is in me. But I think I've just taken it to another level where it's like, no, I need 100 people clapping for me. No, I need 1,000, I need more. So I think that's been my history with it, but nothing to the extent of this, where it's like, you go to a family function, a brown function, and they're on the microphone or dancing drunk. They're just drunk.
So both of the latter are my dad. Like,
yeah,
nerd
really?
By day. If you get like one Budweiser can in him, bro, he's got the mic, he's singing Malu classics, and I'm just like people will be like, does anyone want to say something? He'll grab the mic and say like, and just start belting. And I'm like, me and my mom and my sister, we would just be like, we're not here right now, right? He would sit in like his studio, like back in the 90s, he had a tape recorder. He would sit in his office with like his, PhD placards on the wall, just like recording songs, himself singing.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I got like the boldness. Back in high school, I was a aspiring rapper. Same thing in college.
Yeah.
I got like 12 songs. 8.
Yeah. Do you think that's tied to your dad, or do you think that's just tied to you being a brown boy growing up in the environment you grew up in?
Well, yeah, I mean, all that, like, that's where I got the energy and inspiration. Yeah. But yeah, we're such a performative culture. Like, our whole culture is about dancing and showing and singing. Look at our movies. Good God. We were talking about that earlier. All of that combined, and then there's like 1.5 billion of us. So you're always looking for a way to stand out if you have that personality, right? If you have that extroverted personality. I think it's just a people type, right? Mm-hmm. Not everyone's like that. A lot of people don't want to be seen or heard ever.
Yeah.
But I think if you have that, and then you have like obviously the access to technology that we have, you put all that together, dude. You get a lot of broad people out there, and a lot of them do. A lot of them do podcasts.
Yeah, and
I try to say that we're the only ones.
No, you're good. No, where it's just like podcasting. First of all, a ton of brown people. Stand-up comedy, now a ton of brown people, and I'm not even talking about like the big names. I'm talking about people that I've seen in LA where I'm like, oh, you're also a stand-up comedian? Get the fuck out of here. Like you too. When the hell did this title become so just you could just pick it up, and you can't, right? Like, oh, I'm a singer. How many songs do you have? One song. Oh, okay. Yeah. And I'm similar, right? Where I want to be a stand-up comedian. How many sets have you done? Like 5. But it's like, oh, well, but I feel like I have a decent body work. No, you don't. Shut the fuck up. Like you really don't. And so arts in general, whereas people dance, I mean, dance has always been a part of us, right? Where I get that bit. But, people wanting to laugh at us, people wanting to appreciate maybe like fashion that we create. I know you talked about fashion with Isha for the most, a lot of that, where we just want to create stuff and put that out into the world. Do you think that's just a thing because we are the first generation in America?
Well, honestly, we have the privilege to do such things, right?
Okay.
Our parents came over here in the 80s. Bro, it was survival.
Yeah.
Like that visa's going to expire if I don't get a job out of college, right? Yeah. It was grinding. It was working their way up. So we have that step ladder to kind of be like, all right, I can do the, 9-to-5 day job and study thing, but I can also find this creative outlet, because I think a lot of us have that. We grow up with it, but gosh, the generation before just didn't have the means, man.
And we're having kids at later ages. So now we have more confidence with more money in our pocket. Mm-hmm. So now it's like, hey, what should I do with this?
Exactly.
Save it? Nah.
Yeah.
Let me go buy some microphones.
Exactly. So it was great when I only had one kid, because like, again, she was almost 3 almost 2 at that point.
Yeah.
Much more manageable. But with 2, especially below 3, it's just a time economy, man. Like if you don't wake up and like just block your time perfectly, so nighttime was usually podcast time for me. So if I'm spending the last hour or 2 I'm awake podcasting, that's kind of like a work, man.
Yeah.
It's work. You see a staging, lighting,
where
recording.
you could be setting up your day for tomorrow,
Exactly.
right? You could be prepping milk, prepping bottles, washing shit. I do
Watching
hear you on
the
that.
Ajay Patel show.
Yeah, it's a lot of overhead we don't realize until later. And I've mentioned my mom a couple times now where I was talking to her and she was like, yeah, I want to be able to sell this salsa that I make, but I don't want to deal with the business aspect of it. And it's like, Mom, that's part of it. Like either you can do all of it, right? And you have to give up that much time, or you're just going to be someone that just makes salsa. And both are fine, right? But you just have to, you can't just be like, oh, I want to have a business, but I don't want to learn this and that. Like you have to learn all this crap. You have to learn the crap that is underneath the art to be, I think, successful in it, right? You have to learn how to set up lighting, do this video editing. Oh, how do I, create shorts and then put them on the feeds? How do I do there's so much algorithm shit, whether it's in business, fashion, entertainment, that I think that is one layer of knowledge that we're still like, oh, where is the door to this? And unless you're part of a nepotism, I know that gets a bad rep, but it's just like, oh, they just know where doors are. And then I think true talent actually seeps through that, where it's like, oh, okay, Shah Rukh Khan's daughter is actually decent. I get it. Do you think this is just a South Asian thing?
Like the need to perform, the need to be out there and be very like, seen and heard, like from a creative standpoint?
Yeah.
No way, man. I mean, like, I think black culture is really big out there.
Yeah.
Honestly, every culture has its niche online.
Yeah.
We're just seeing more of the South Asian stuff pumped to us.
Yep.
Like, I'm pretty sure Instagram thinks I'm a Punjabi mom to this date, because all the memes and reels I get are like mom ones or like Punjabi comedy. And there's some Malu stuff sprinkled in there, but no, by no means are we the only ones doing this.
Yeah.
That's a mistake I made, thinking like I'm the only South Asian podcaster.
I think it's almost the same thing as like the consumerism that's pumped into us. Yes. Whereas like we see all these forms of, I keep calling it art, but y'all know what I mean, right? Whether it's entertainment, whatnot. We keep seeing this stuff, right? Oh, I see Russell Peters perform. Oh, I see this person do this dance. Oh, I see this person make this cooking video. And I'm pumped in with all this shit. And now I'm like, it's like a drug.
Right.
Where like, oh, I want to try it now.
Yes.
Like I need that. And then you slowly start trying to make your way there, and then you eventually do it. But I do agree, where it's like, this is every single culture.
Yep.
And I think it's just going to be continue to be pumped into us, and we're going to keep doing it.
It is, man. And like even within like those, like say I'm in the Indian universe, right? Online, watching the Ajay Patel show. Like you have that niche of kind of like, I feel like I'm just hanging out with a friend when I listen to your podcast.
Yeah.
Obviously because I know you, right? But it's a very good, washing bottles and chilling, hearing about Ajay's life type of thing. But then there's probably, there's a lot of like the self-help gurus. There's honestly a lot of really famous people who have had podcasts that just didn't take off at all. Like Obama's had a podcast.
Bill Gates.
No one listened to him, dude.
I was like, oh, there's 4 episodes. What happened after this?
Yeah.
And I think maybe they just realized like, oh, I have better spent time than doing this that I feel no value out of. I'm just sharing my knowledge. I could just keep building stuff. Like I could keep creating. And I understand that for them money isn't really like an object, but why not?
Right. Exactly right. So yeah, by no means is it limited to culture, but I think it's personality types. But I'm very biased in terms of what I'm seeing, what I'm being fed. It's people doing Indian dances, people making Indian food. And that's a function of who I follow already.
Yeah.
And honestly, like our extended network of people, a lot of them do these things. So we see them and then the extension of that algorithm.
And then we're getting to this point where, like a housing market, where we're getting pumped up so much with this shit that we're eventually going to get to the point where we're like, and I feel like I'm slowly there. I feel like you might be scratching it, where it's like, okay, now I want the exact opposite. I want to live in a little quaint town. I don't want anybody to know who I am. I want to be able to just, nod at people when I walk through the town and just have a nice, safe life. I don't care about performing anything. I don't care about people clapping for me. I just want to make some decent money. I don't want a yacht. I just want to be able to keep the lights on. I want to do some regular work. Maybe I'm a store clerk, Or maybe if you do enjoy your job, right? You keep doing that and you live by a more, minimalist needs. You don't have this big old house. You don't have 4 cars and stuff. And then you're living good. Almost like basically maybe our parents' did. Because our parents, they were grinding for the American dream. Sure. And it's like, oh, you had a little bit, you had a little bit of that crack. And now we are on that grind of like, oh shit, I need to invest in my Roth. I need to have a 401k. I need to be able to I need to diversify. I need to buy a house and then take a HELOC. And it's like,
you'll never stop running the rat race.
Yeah.
And sorry guys, I had Chipotle, a lot of acid reflux. Because what I realized is like, here's me, right? I'm this dot on the wall. This entire wall and this entire house is the internet that I'm up against. Mm-hmm. Like it's David against a million Goliaths, right? There's that. There's, who's paying the algorithm enough to be pumped to certain places. And like you said, man, as I approach 37 in like a month or two, it's really become, and with kids, where am I putting my brain? Where am I putting my attention? Is everyone happy? Am I happy? That's what it really becomes. It really becomes about the real world all of a sudden again.
Yeah.
And so when you step away from it all, like I did, I'm just like, dang, there's stuff here around me to enjoy again.
I think that also settles in a lot after you, and obviously I'm not married, but as I've gotten closer to that line, and then I've witnessed other people get married, have kids, whatnot. I think that's when that vision starts dwindling down, where it's like, do I really care about this? Like, I'm pretty content with where I'm at. I'm happy with this person. I want to start a future with them. And and this is where what you were talking about, where it's like, my focus is now putting money on the table, putting food on the table, and keeping us safe, right? The yes. 3 duties as a man or woman. Jesus Christ, I'm going to get fucking crushed for this shit. But you know what I'm saying, right? Us growing up how we did, where we watched our dad, they didn't really care about getting internet views. They cared about 3 things, right? Disciplining your kids, keeping the wife happy, kids happy, and then putting food on the table. Yes. So I do think
the second one was optional for them.
Yeah. They're just like, fuck it, why
not? You're right though, man. And I go back to that addictive personality. It can get very addictive to seek the validation of others.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what the internet really allows you to do at a very high clip. And if you don't catch yourself, I mean, your personality just seems a lot more mellow than mine. I had to catch myself because I was like, whose approval do I really care about at the end of the day? It's my blood, my blood and guts. Like the rest of y'all don't matter. I'm sorry.
I don't say it out loud, right? But like the reason that I haven't been posting a lot of clips is because it's just like, damn, I don't know if I like this. I don't know if others will like this. And it's just overthinking it. Because I looked back at some of my YouTube shorts the other day and I was like, how the hell did that get views? How the hell did that get? Like, I didn't even care about that clip. But it's just a matter of, like you said, pumping the shit out of that internet algorithm. You just keep throwing stuff in there and eventually some things will work. Uh-huh. And then maybe one day you hit a little home run and then you're on your way.
But the thing that drove me insane the most, I think this is what Instagram taught me, being back on Instagram, is like, you can put 500 hours into your podcast, and the dude who sat there going, brother, he gets 10 billion views.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we even doing here?
You have to sell entertainment. It doesn't matter about the quality. It's just like the shock value. And I get it, right? Where sometimes, like the person that I've thoroughly enjoyed, there was some article that came out calling him the internet's funniest dude right now, Drewski.
Yeah, Drewski. I know Drewski.
And I find him absolutely fucking hilarious. Where I'm like, the content you're producing, also this black humor that I grew up with, idolizing, watching, whether it was Martin, Fresh Prince, just how I grew up, the area I grew up in. And I was like, this is what I like watching. Not, have you ever seen Desi Banks?
Yes. I watched the shit.
He was like number 8. And I was like, this guy is not, I don't find this guy funny at all. I don't think he did Shay Shay. So you might be thinking of someone else.
Oh, okay.
Or actually you might have.
It's the one that's huge on Facebook. They're like a Atlanta group of people, right?
Okay.
But this conversation is very interesting to me because for my company, we represent the South region, right? So I do travel to Atlanta once in a while. Atlanta is so interesting because everybody is trying to be those guys.
Yeah.
Multiple Uber drivers I strike up conversations with because
They start doing material.
No, they're like, I'm like, so what do you do? They're like,
Yeah.
oh, I got a college degree, but they offered me less than what I make doing Uber. So I'm trying to be like a podcaster, a videographer, a TikToker, and they're all idolizing these dudes who popped off.
Yeah.
It's very, very big.
A lot of those guys that are now on like Wild and Out.
Yes.
I can't remember the name. Chico Bean, DC Young Fly,
yep.
Carlos Miller.
Anyway,
yep. I think they call themselves 65 South or something. 85 South.
Yeah,
sorry, my apologies.
No, you're good. No, man, I've been there, so I don't.
Atlanta, please don't come for me.
It's like that's what they're seeing, and they saw those guys pop off. Like these dudes are doing. Really
that works.
Yes.
Therefore, I should do that.
And these are kids right out of college.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is how that generation out of college is thinking now.
But it's so funny because it's like, it doesn't work.
It does not.
You can't copy someone else's magic trick.
You're not.
You're actually a fucking dot. you shut the hell up and you find a different magic trick, and when you're good enough, you come back out. And that's why I think the Drewski thing's so funny, because it's like, the dude's a big character.
He is.
If he was skinny, he wouldn't be that funny.
Nope.
At all. And it just works, right? He wears these tight ass shirts. It's like airport security. And he's just being dumb. And it's like, oh, he found a new magic trick, and this shit works. He wasn't just loud doing the same jokes, side eye. Like, this shit works. And now there's this stream culture.
Yes.
Where everyone wants to stream. And I was on that train. I bought a capture card. I was like, oh, you know what? I'm already playing Call of Duty. Let me be a little bit more entertaining. I'll turn to, back then, I think the most popular streamer was probably like Ninja.
Yes.
Now it's obviously the biggest streamer right now, I think, is, this is going to sound short-sighted because I'm sure there's bigger ones, but Kai Cenat, right? Yes. And so that worked for him because they have a thing going, right? They have all those dudes in that house that all stream. They have like a little ecosystem. And that thing always works, where you just have other people around you to kind of like, okay, we have more momentum on this train. I have more people around me that want to do the same thing. Therefore, birds of a, what's that saying? Birds of a feather flock together or something?
Something like that.
Yeah. Where if the 5 friends around me are all software developers, what the fuck do you think I'm going to end up doing? Like, it's going to be like that.
Shout out to Indian Squad.
That's what I'm saying. Right. And so, you mentioned me getting sued, and I hit up my friend group and I was like, why the hell did none of us become a lawyer? We have 0 lawyers. We have 0 doctors. We have a bunch of people in finance, and we have a bunch of people on the data side of stuff. We are all the same, and we're all useless. Like, if we mean nothing, especially when you need something, right? Oh, I need legal advice. Oh shit, my knee just popped out. What do I do, like, medically? Right? Remember in Mexico, yes, where Vishal came in clutch, where it's like, oh shit, luckily we have a little doctor friend around, and it helps out. So going back to the point where it's just like, you do have to find your own magic trick.
You do. And
I think I might have one, but it's just a matter of, it needs to be consistent and it needs to be louder.
Yeah, man. And like, see, again, that tunnel vision really gets a lot easier, I think, as you kind of get into your 30s, because then you start to gain more and more years of learning what works and what doesn't work. You gain a lot more clarity, and your body kind of starts to tell you things too. Like, hey, this ain't working.
Yeah.
I'm about to go off the highway right now, right? I wanted to ask you though, because obviously you're out there, you're doing the podcast thing. Are you on Facebook? Do you do the Facebook thing?
No, I'm actually. I don't want to get demonetized from Facebook. Not like I post on Facebook, but obviously I do post on Instagram. But I don't like Facebook.
Yeah, no one does.
I think that thing is actually a war machine.
So it is. It's like the cesspool of the world. I had to get back on because apparently our community talks the most there.
Right. It was like a Facebook group or something.
Yeah, like here's a ring recording of some kid kicking my garage last week, and I'm like, yo, let's go, right?
Yeah.
But
which is the same thing. It's a war machine.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's all rage bait or like dude bait, right? I'm not going to expand upon that.
Same thing. Yeah, you talking about.
You're talking about 85 South. So one of those, whichever dude was on Shay Shay, he was talking about that's where he exploded, because that's that boomer generation. Who will come and like, I think they love reels.
Yeah.
I know this firsthand from some of the older people I hang out with. They'll be at the family gathering just.
No, I mean that's correct, right? That's why it was and still is a big deal to do something like the Jimmy Fallon show.
Yes.
Where it's like, oh, you were on this 10 p.m. show that only, people above the age 40 are watching. I haven't heard anyone watch that show in the last 10 years. People last week just watched it because Diljit was on it.
I saw that.
Yeah. Diljit.
But where did you see it? You saw it on Instagram. You didn't watch Jimmy Kimmel that night.
But I was aware. I was aware that Fallon. Oh yikes! But I was aware that it was coming.
Right.
Like people were like, "Oh, he's on at 10 p.m." and I think it was right after the finals game.
Okay.
And they were like, "Oh, turn this on," and I was like, "Oh, interesting." Like you still have to do some of these avenues for the older heads. Obviously, you'll get some young heads in there, but more than likely, they're going to see that off of Instagram, TikTok, maybe some Facebook watch videos if people are on Facebook. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't think I'm gonna be on Facebook.
You just seem like you have a much more patient approach than I did. Like not just shotgun blasting yourself out there every possible means. I never did Facebook either because it is just like you said, it's a war machine. You want to talk about something that's going to use your face and likeness and turn it into whatever it wants. Yeah,
and they have it already, right? Like because I'm on Instagram.
Sure.
So
it's true.
So they already have it. It's just a matter of like, it's also the family thing. There's a lot more people in my family that are on Facebook.
100.
Yeah, like I was just hanging out with Isha's family, and a couple of them added me on Facebook, and I was like, "This is still a thing." Yeah. Last time I was doing this was when I was trying to like hit on a girl in college. Right. When I was like, "Hey, let me write on this girl's wall," like that was the move, like Facebook messaging and whatnot. So now after that, I really do think it just became like I love what you said, where it's just this rage machine. If it makes people angry, it'll work. Yeah. And I've even seen, and I get on Facebook. I love Facebook Marketplace. It's one of the best things. It's amazing. And I'll see the feed, and I'll see my dad comment some hateful shit on some stuff.
This is a real phenomenon in Desi parents.
And I'm just like, yo, and I'm not gonna reply. Right. I'm not gonna talk to him because it's just like, but yeah. And I'm just like, whoa, my dad's really out there, like.
First-hand experience of pretty much the same. It's interesting, man, because like at one point it gets overwhelming too, even as a non-podcaster, just a person who's on social media. How many apps do I need?
Yeah.
How many places do I need to see the same content? And you could just live there for your whole day if you're not careful about it, man.
And I've done that, especially with these days of unemployment, where I've just been like, dude, I've been on TikTok for a minute, a while, and the shit, it's made to do exactly what it's doing, right? It's made to keep me on this little short form, little quick itch. And sometimes it's weird. I try to train myself. I try to go watch a 13-minute YouTube video just to remember that I can sit there in peace, because I find myself like a crackhead. Like today I was watching The Boys. And then I was on my phone. I was scrolling through TikTok, and I was like, "What the fuck am I doing? There's literally content on this screen right here. Right, why am I here scrolling through this stuff? And I don't even know what just happened. Why am I here? But it's like, oh, you need like 5 screens at the same time. It's a weird crackhead culture.
So this is a big thing I've been working on personally. Is that ability to just to quote? I love this quote from Breaking Bad. Yeah. Whole ass, or no, he's like, no more half measures. There's a Parks and Rec quote, whole ass one thing. So if you start your day on social media, I've found that whole day is kind of off balance. And as someone with kids too, it's like, it's a real presence game, right? If you're on your phone, like, one could be about to jump off of the staircase, right? Yeah. Or one could be about to put something in their mouth they shouldn't at a baby age. There's that. And the focus thing is huge, man. So I'm like, I have this new challenge I've set for myself. I used to just listen to 40 minutes of one podcast. Let me listen to 10 minutes of another. No, if I'm listening to a podcast, I'm going to continue that one I started until it's done.
Yeah.
It's helped me get through so many more.
It helps.
It's miraculous.
It's almost like we have to like backwards train ourselves.
We do.
Ourselves. We have to do it ourselves.
We do, man. And the NBA Finals was another good example.
Yeah.
I always would pull out my phone during the finals. And I'm like, what if I just sat here and consumed this game?
Just watch the game.
As torturous as it was as a Mavs fan.
So that's a perfect. So firstly, on that topic, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts on the diaspora of the arts, and that it's not just in a South Asian thing. I do think we're maybe a little bit more repressed, and we like now we're kind of like acting out, quote unquote. But all in all, I bring us to the saddest topic. If y'all turn this off, I don't blame you. I probably will have 3 podcasts talking about the same thing at this point, but I will give you, let's say, I'll give you 2 minutes. I'll give you 2 minutes on how sad you were about the Mavs.
Well, the sadness really started game one when Porzingis was just torching us.
Absolutely massacre.
I was like, oh, we're done.
Yeah, we're done.
I was like,
and we were.
It's even more angering that we won game four. I was like, was that just like a ratings ploy?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you really watched some of the plays. I could have sworn like Tatum and Brown just like let up at the last.
A lot of people were saying that.
It felt that way.
And I was just like, I don't know. I feel like shots just went in for once. Because then game five comes around and I was like, bro, we can't hit a fucking shot.
No, man.
This is so bad.
Yeah. So my creative outlet lately has just been posting these like garbage stories on Instagram. And I really thought about this finals loss. I was like, this is the city of Dallas. We're always this gonna be our year city. Mm-hmm. The Cowboys win 3 games. We're like, oh, Super Bowl number 6. Here we go. I was that guy. I was at the Cowboys playoff game where the Packers destroyed us. I went to the Mavs game 6.
Yeah.
Right? I throw money away on these horrible dreams that Dallas sports has given me since I was like a kid. Right. This one, in retrospect, I'm more proud of what this team did.
Yeah.
Like, 5th seed.
Yeah.
Last year when we were a 5th seed, we didn't even make the playoffs. This year we made the finals.
Yeah.
Like we were a 5th seed and didn't even make the playoffs with Kyrie last year. They made those crazy trades this year, made the playoffs. But just having the leading scorer in Luka in both the regular season and the playoffs and losing in that manner to Boston, like freaking how many championships do they need?
Did it feel Houston James Harden-esque?
Meaning, did I feel like
that
Rockets
our team mimicked that team?
They didn't even make the finals though, right?
Well, because they ran into the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals.
I have such deep-rooted hatred for everything Houston sports. Living there for 6 years as a Dallas fan, the treatment I would receive when I would wear my Dallas gear and go to games in the office place, never. I will never compare us to them. It's. I don't want to make any analogies, but no sympathy, no mercy for anything Houston sports.
Jeez, I personally thought we mimicked that team a lot, where you have one main character, a very good supportive second character, and then a cast of people that need to make corner threes.
When you put it like that, you're right.
Yeah, and the fact that you just said we had the leading scorer in, and obviously Houston didn't have. There's a lot of like, oh, James Harden choked. And Luka was getting some of that stuff where, oh, Luka didn't do good. And it's like, the dude had 27, 13, and 6. Like, but that's still low for him. We expect a 35, 16, and 10 night minimum. But that's just weird expectations for a guy that's 24, 25.
Yes.
So, yes, I do hear you where I'm glad we made it that far. What are your predictions to close this out for next year? What will the Mavericks be doing? What will other teams, like who do you see in the finals next year right now?
I mean, it's 100% function of what Luka decides to do, right? Like I could see them all making another run at it. He doesn't give me Dirk like lifelong Mavs vibes. Just because he's a young guy. Yeah. He's out there. He's like a media superstar.
Yeah.
But I could see them making another run at it. I don't see the finals again, man, because I think Denver's going to be a buzzsaw. Yeah. Minnesota's going to come back hungry. OKC, what we did this year was miraculous. I think if we maintain the same team, Western Conference Finals, I could see it again.
Okay.
But we did make the Western Conference Finals in the last 4 years and not return the year after. So it's Dallas.
Who do you see in the finals next year?
Man, this is such a prisoner of the moment take, but.
Yeah, I like it.
Who in the East other than Boston, right? It's
okay. No Giannis?
I haven't seen Giannis do much since the finals they won. I haven't seen Giannis do enough. If they don't have as many injuries, you can never say the Knicks because they're like Dallas or they're like the Cowboys of basketball.
They are. 100%.
Yeah, let me just be prisoner of the moment, Stephen A. Smith status, right? Boston Celtics, and I can't put the Thunder in there. I'll put the Nuggets in there.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it, but
I agree with you. I thought that was what was going to happen this year.
Right.
I think the only thing that would change something is if the Denver cast starts finding places elsewhere.
Yes.
Where Aaron Gordon's like, oh shit, the Magic need me. I don't think the moves like where Paul George goes or anyone like that will matter much. I don't think if he goes to the 76ers, then that team's good. I think Joel Embiid will continue to get hurt. The East is not that great. And then the Giannis piece, I think he's probably still the best player in the NBA, healthy. But I'm not a big Dame guy. I don't think he's a winner. I think he's an amazing talent. But you just saw what Drew Holiday did, right? He's a perfect person in that role. Oh, hey, you go be this killer, whether it's Tatum or Brown. Y'all go do your thing. I'm going to go get these short rebounds every other fifth play, and it will terrorize the team. I hated watching that shit where he would grab this short rebound, go up in a split second. I was like, bro, how do we beat this? No one's hustling like that.
The athleticism was just different, man. The Celtics just had that speed, and like when Brown would get like a fast break or just cut inside, no one could guard that.
Yeah.
The speed at which he would dunk and hit the rim, I was just like, oh.
Yeah, I was like,
not moving that fast.
As soon as he would take that first dribble, and you're like, yeah, he's dunking that bitch.
And we lived and died by like Kyrie. Like if Kyrie could do 20 and above, we were in it. If not, game over.
With that all being said, do you have any last words for the audience or, yeah?
Last word for you, man. Keep it up. You've been consistent. You've been doing this for a long time. I love your stories. I love the honesty you're bringing lately. But yeah, man, protect your neck. Watch your back out there. The internet is a bunch of crazy wild boys. Be careful with your NBA takes. I saw that short get some wild comments on there. Like they come at the weirdest like things when you talk an NBA trade talk. But other than that, it's all love. Ajay Patel show. Well, open invitation, my friend.
I appreciate that, man. One last cheers.
One last cheers.
And I bid you farewell.
Keeping it sober. Love it.
Take care, y'all.
Cheers, everybody.
And goodbye.
Texas forever.